What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Core Podcast, covering all things Apple TV. My name is Paul, and with me today is Luke, and we are here to talk Apple TV's new hit show, emphasis on hit, Pluribus. Episode 4, Please Carol. Now, we are missing our fearless leader, Jimmy, but who likes that guy anyway? So we'll try to hold it down without him and try to be just as charming. But, Luke, episode 4, kind of a short one, not a whole lot of content. It feels like it was only a handful of scenes, but still really good. What were your thoughts? And is there any Discord members bringing up any good points or theories?
So this episode felt a little bit more like episode 3 compared to episodes 1 and 2. And maybe it's just because we're getting used to the idea and the concept of the plot and all that, and there's less surprises, at least at this part of the season. I think it fits into the tier 2 of the groupings of episodes for me personally. Like, I still am episodes 1 and 2 are far and away my favorite. I thought they were incredible, and episodes 3 and 4 very, very good TV. It's just less theory crafting material for us as podcasters, and it's just, like you're saying, shorter, and it seems to be more about Carol has her bearings, and now she's trying to like hone in on the solutions of what's going to really happen for the rest of this season. So I think we're just kind of in the middle part of this season. I still enjoyed the hell out of it, and it seems like most people did. Everybody I've been talking to about this show in real life and online loves Pluribus. I think I came across my first Pluribus hater. Shout out to our friend Dave, not podcast Dave, but cannot believe the reaction he was giving us. But for the most part, I'm throwing that in the trash can because he's a Breaking Bad stan, and I don't think he can get out of his own way as saying that Vince Gilligan made his masterpiece already, because everybody I've talked to loves this show. And I think it's so deserving of all the good, positive TikToks, YouTube clips, Instagram reels I'm seeing out there. It's just such a good conversation starter, and I love what I'm seeing. But yeah, this episode was very, very good. And people in our Discord, bingetv.com/Discord, they were talking about this. And I want to bring up a couple of comments and a couple of theories, and then that'll get our conversation started. Then we can jump right into the episode. Sound good to you?
Sir.
All right. So one of the first comments we have here that I wanted to bring up was from the Phantom Dennis. And what they were talking about is in relation to, there was a lot of dialogue in our Discord, I should say, about our fun conversation towards the end of the last podcast about the love aspect of it all, when I was jokingly saying Zosha and Carol are going to kiss or whatever. But there is something to be said about this, especially after this episode too, because Carol literally calls her hot when she's like going through her blackout. That's going to be something we can talk about. But what the Phantom Dennis was saying was, is it possible that love could play an important aspect of this whole thing, specifically between Carol and Zosha, but could it be through the form of Helen's memories? And I'm going to expand that into twofold before I pass it over to you, meaning, could it literally be that their love is so strong and it's important that the hive mind like isn't ready to deal with this, because there usually aren't free thinkers, that Helen's personality comes out and starts overriding the hive mind and basically takes back the individuality and turns Zosha into a host for Helen almost? Or it could still be the same line of thinking where it's just pure manipulation by the hive mind, where they fake it almost because they're capable of white lies. So they could use that play to try and make Carol fall more in love with them and be more willing. Either way, like, you can take the implications of the love in its own separate way, but the initial thought about love pouring through Zosha in the form of Helen, what do you think about that?
I really like it. First of all, Phantom Dennis, that is one of the best names I've ever heard in my entire life. That's
It is
amazing.
good.
Um, Second of all, yeah, we were kind of joking, saying like, if love's the answer, we're gonna be pissed. If love's the solution, we're gonna be mad. But there's more to it than that. It's like, it's just, we will be mad if like all of a sudden they kiss and she comes to and
Mhm.
is cured. But if they actually go more into it and say there is a chemical release in the brain due to love or something like that, and they actually get down more to the nitty gritty behind it, I would like that a lot, actually, because it's just, love is such an unknown and there's so much complication with
Mhm.
it that it could lead to something. But I also love the reverse end that I never would have thought of, that the infected or the affected using fake love as a manipulation tool is kind of genius. Like,
Hmm.
they can't lie, like you said, but they can lie by omission.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is a lot of wiggle room with that. So, I do like that a lot.
I guess the elephant in the room is like, is Zosha still alive? Like, we're asking this the question again for 2 episodes in a row, completely different circumstance.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
fully under the opinion that she's going to be fine, right? Do you feel the
I,
same?
I feel like it would hurt the show if she died just because she was such a good character that
Yeah.
people will be so upset. But I mean, if she dies, obviously she dies. But I'm not gonna hate the show. But she's
Hmm.
so good, and she just smiling, before Carol even really comes into the room fully because she just knows she's there. And just I love the complicated relationship that these two have. So I would be so upset if Joss is dead. And I think Carol would be too. I think Carol would actually start looking for some H if Zosha ends up dying because she is completely alone, but she obviously feels something for Zosha
Hmm.
because when she goes back to the hospital, first of all, she's checking on her, she's worried about her. She even apologizes to her, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know better or I didn't think better," which is, we didn't see anything come close. Carol, we didn't see Carol do anything even close to that, saying like, I'm sorry or taking the blame or like basically not be miserable. So I really love them. And if Zosha's dead, I'll be upset. But
Yeah.
I mean, I
It's
got faith.
the show's weird because it has, due to the nature of the plot and the hive mind, it has the ability to never need to reuse actors again. Like Larry, right? He had his moment in the sun, right, in this episode, right, as talking through when has the sit down with Carol. That actor that plays Larry, I'm assuming we'll never see him again. That's
Yeah.
kind of the case with most of the hive mind, with the exception of Zosha so far. So yeah, I mean, I feel that she's already past the point of being so important that she should really only probably die if it becomes to a finale or something like that, like a big moment that actually has like an impact for the rest of the series. I think she's going to be fine, but yeah, that's an interesting angle about the whole love thing if we're really trying to think through it all, and I think there's going to be something there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Okay. Our next comment here or theory is from Lava Lizards, and what they said, which got me thinking, this is all related to the cold opening and the man that's isolated in Paraguay. They said that what if the Paraguay free thinker could potentially tap into how the hive mind's communicating, meaning like they tap into the frequency, which is what they were doing, right? Like going through the radio frequencies, crossing out what actually counts. So, like, what if there's some hard sci-fi going on here where they're actually using a special frequency and he could start hearing it and using that? I don't know what you would be saying to yourself, but maybe there's something there. I don't know. I just feel like he was trying to connect the importance to the radio frequencies that we saw in the cold opening.
Yeah, yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I kind of brought that up episode one or two. I was episode two, but I thought when everybody was having the seizures when Carol freaks out, I thought it was because they were losing their frequency connection because
Mhm.
I
Just
was
the
overthinking.
satellites or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
overthinking it a lot. But to go off of that, like Lava Lizards, totally agree because uh, there's got to be ways to disrupt it or affect it or maybe even cut it off completely. Obviously, that's going to be like impossible to figure out how or why, but there's got to be a way. So that's definitely something that I was thinking of. Like, if we get them in like a Faraday box somehow,
Mhm.
will they be completely cut off from the connection from outside? I don't know how or even if it would ever get into the story, but I definitely thought of it, and I definitely love the disrupting of the frequency idea.
Yeah. It's cool because I didn't even like cross my mind that they would be talking, like they're obviously thinking as a hive mind, but I don't know what you would be saying that they could pick up. I'm trying to think of a way you can apply it to the story, and I just don't know how it would work, but there's some seeds there.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, you put them in like completely 36-inch steel room box does the frequency get through or whatever, and would they even walk in? Like, are they, because this whole episode was the affected telling us that they know more about the frequency, but they're just
Mhm.
refusing to tell us anything about it. So there's got to be little things they know about that they're going to steer clear of or they won't go to, something like that. But I just, I love the mystery aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's just so money.
All right. The last thing we'll talk about from the Discord before we jump into the episode itself. This is coming from Girlybot, and what they were saying. There was a theory that they wrote out in the Discord. It's very long, but it's a good theory. It sprouted some questions I have that I think will kind of sum up some of what they were talking about. But they're essentially getting into the biological imperative of the species or of the RNA virus and what the free thinkers represent, why they represent an obstacle to them. This all kind of goes back to something I said last episode, where rule one needs to be that they can't really hurt people or lie, because otherwise everything that we've been shown as an audience, it's impossible for us to theorize if those aren't two like hard set rules. So assuming that they really can't get around the whole dodging the negative emotions things and lying, like keep that in the back of your head. Like, why do they care about the free thinkers? Like, what possible problems could they pose? Because there were some of the things that came out in her comments, and I wrote them down for us to talk about, was basically like, when it comes to reproduction or how these free thinkers interact with the hive mind, is it possible that the hive mind can't reproduce with itself, right? Like that's a possibility, right?
Hmm.
Or if they were to reproduce with one of the free thinkers, would the immunity gene or whatever's in them that's preventing them from being taken over from the hive mind be passed on? Like that could be an obstacle of why they care so much about snuffing out the ability to dodge this virus. I just think that's like a cool thought. There's more to it, and the Discord comment does a better job of explaining it than I just did right there. But that's something I wanted to bring up to you, because what do you think the deal is? Like, are they over in Africa and that part of the population that's infected by the hive mind just reproducing, and like it's just background world building, and maybe we'll get some episodes down the line of him showing us that? Or is it like everybody that's alive is stuck in this biological imperative now, and their only job as a remaining species is two things: one being build the antenna to spread the signal throughout the universe, and then two, make sure that everybody on the said planet falls in line with the hive mind. Like it really just breaks into the what's the idea of reproducing. But that's such a long-term thought process because we're literally 7 days in. But what do you think about some of those things?
No, I love that. Like, there's like three branches to that theory, like you were just saying. Girly bot, high level thinker, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like one, like you could be right. Are they just on the other side, just repopulating, just trying to get as a most powerful force as possible? Potential counter to that, if they get too many, would the frequency start to like dull because it can't hit everybody equally anymore? So it's like less effective per person. I would say that's kind of garbage. I'm just, that popped into my head, but I doubt that's a thing. And then two, yeah, like what if a unaffected has a baby? What could possibly, like, what is that baby? You couldn't tell me it's going to come out like speaking. Like,
Yeah.
we talked about that, but like, is it going to be
In episode
affected?
one, like the baby that she saw, she kind of Carol freaked out, and you couldn't tell what she saw, and we
Yes.
haven't revisited it yet. So
No, it's such a good question too. Like, could you? I mean, apparently they don't think they're going to have enough time to even have a kid because they're estimating a few weeks to like a few
mhm.
months. But still, that's just so interesting. But just the merging of the two different genes and what could
Yeah, what
possibly
would
come out
happen?
on top. Yeah. So I love that. I'm gonna be thinking about that a lot.
I mean, I'm assuming if we get like we are going to get multiple seasons, like maybe time skips can happen, but
Mhm.
at the same time, like Carol, there's just no plot line I see going forward where we're going to figure it out through Carol. It's just going to have to be more of a like broader limitation for the hive mind. But that's just, again, that
Mhm.
seems like season 3. If we're going to get 4 seasons, Like that's like deep lore of weaknesses and everything. Even though she is going down that route right now, I'm just spitballing though, and I do like the thoughts because this show is so good at spawning interesting conversations and questions, and then Vince Gilligan's so good at making Carol jump into some of them, but not dive the whole way through to make it to take away the spark of the mystery. So it's just
Mhm.
good TV, man.
Yeah, like if we see Kumba again, but it's like 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, more even. Like, is he gonna have women pregnant around him? Like, could
Yeah,
that be a
right.
thing? No idea. I don't even know if they can get pregnant. So
Exactly.
I love it. The show is we constantly praise how fun it is just with the little bits of information that we're fed just to theorize, and it's so intelligent at the same time. And I can't see how you could watch a show and not
Mhm.
love it, but
And
maybe
if
I'm
there's
biased.
some listeners out there that only have heard us on a couple of shows and think we're just Apple fanboys, one, I am an Apple fanboy when it comes to TV, not Apple products in general, just Apple TV. But two, go listen to our Murderbot coverage. Go listen to some of the Witcher stuff. Like we liked that's on Binge Empire, but we do like to shit on some shows, and it's just that Pluribus so far is hitting all the boxes. It seems like prestige television. The conversations around the show are just like intellectual, which is fun in this day and age. Like you don't normally always get that. Sometimes there's just popcorn shows, but this show is just it just continuously surprises me in a positive way.
It's yeah, I have no idea what any episode is going to bring, but it's always something I never thought of, and it's
Hmm.
always so fun. So, but without further ado, let's just kind of jump into the episode. We'll just go scene by scene here because there's only a few. Right before we jump in, I do need to correct myself. At the end of the last podcast recording, I was saying that it's for like 4.5 days in was the grenade incident. That was more like 7 days because this episode starts with Carol leaving the hospital and it is giving us the 7 days, 8 hours. But before that, we do get our man down in Paraguay. And this was a slight flashback because obviously this was during the events of episode 3. This is just Carol and her phone calls to him trying to get in touch. But before the phone call actually happens, we see him, you already said it, Luke, messing with the radio. We see he has his own Zosha giving and dropping off food, but like Carol, he refuses to eat, even though he's starving. He's finding his own stuff. He's eating dog food. So, what were your takeaways from this opening scene?
Hmm. So the wording that I had written down on my notes that Zosha explained to Carol on the plane about this man, what she said was he's in Paraguay and he manages a self-storage facility. This isn't actually what I envisioned. I assumed it was way more isolated rather than being on like normal streets that people can just drive up on. Does kind of confuse me that I guess nobody he must own the whole company because like how would anybody that was absorbed into the hive mind not have at least been aware of it? But that's thinking too deep. I think that this is going to be a very important character, especially because he did seem to take away some important learning some important just information from like Carol. Like he realized at the end and his writing the question down, he knows that she was something different than the hive mind that he's been experiencing since the pandemic started. So I don't have much more past that. He seems like he's going to be stubborn. He's like people in our Discord were saying he's the boy version of Carol, like he's miserable. And there is something to be said that maybe that's some sort of commonality of what makes you immune, but then you got to expand that over to the other 6 survivors that we met, which didn't seem to be miserable people. So you can probably throw that out, but it's just more data points for us to think about when Vince Gilligan gives us answers. We can look back and it's probably right there in front of our eyes, but we don't know yet.
Mhm. I I think there is something to why they couldn't find him for, the first the 48 hours or whatever. Like you said, it was too high level thinking, but to me, there must be something else to it because, like you said, h- how would nobody even know that he's there in the first place? Like when
Yeah.
they said he was gone, I thought, or they didn't find him and it took 2 days. I thought it was because he was hiking somewhere by himself solo where he didn't tell anybody and that's why they couldn't possibly know about him. If he's like the owner of this business, that just kind of raises more questions to me too because like you said, he must have been known beforehand. So I feel like the show doesn't really just kind of cut corners like that. So maybe there's more to it about why. Maybe they for something about him or the area they just forgot about him at first, but it seems like there might be something more there because
There,
it's
yeah, there definitely could be. I guess my question goes to, because he spent, that was like 10 minutes of the episode. I don't know if you were like
yeah.
clocking that of how long it was. And I know Vince Gilligan does the cold openings like that. Usually not a lot of dialogue. They explain something important that's going to really connect to the main story. This was really just filling in the dots of what we already knew in our head, just seeing the other side of that conversation. I guess the important piece is at the end is when he writes down, what did you, so he writes down Carol is Turca or something like that. Like I it didn't translate it
I
like it
think
was like it was translating the other things, and that's yeah. Go ahead.
I think Carol goes, "My name's Carol Sturka." She
Oh,
goes,
Sturka. Okay, so he was just mishearing it. You think?
and he's like, he's just trying to guess her last name and how to spell it because obviously it's not a last name that he would be familiar with. So,
Perfect.
so
That's
I,
that's so dumb on my part, but that makes a ton of sense because that literally translates to Carol as Turkish, but that doesn't make sense in like in the context of what was going on. I was like, I was trying to put the word together, and I was like, what is he writing? And then yeah, duh.
yeah. So I don't think it's Doug because you know me in Spanish, man. They had those flyers up and those signs, and I paused it. I spent
Hmm.
like 20 seconds, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't have the ability to do this.
Well, they translated those.
Yes, yes, but some of the other signs and stuff,
Yeah.
like I think so. One of the signs, the guy is going through the different frequencies on the radio, and what originally guessed he was doing was going to each channel, waiting for 30 seconds to see if he heard like an emergency broadcast or anything, and then after 30 seconds, he would just move on to the next one. But if he's doing something more in depth, like we talked about in the beginning, like messing with the frequency, trying to figure something out, I would love that. But to me, I thought he was just looking for other help, and that's why
Hmm.
he couldn't find anything. That's why when he got the phone call, he hangs up, and then finally, when she says go bang your mom, he's like, you know what, this might be my first lead here.
Yeah, he's just looking for the revolution, which why would you not? Because he doesn't have all the information that everybody else does because he refuses to interact with the hive mind.
Hmm.
So I don't blame him for what he's doing, but this is definitely going to be the catalyst to get him to leave, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the dog food also might be a
Yeah.
catalyst to get him to leave.
Yeah.
That's just nasty. Him licking so what was it, like an old tuna can and then
Hmm.
following it up with a coffee creamer chaser. I'm like, brother, just
Disgusting.
just have what they gave you. They're not gonna poison it. But
Yeah, right.
anyway, strong feeling that we will be seeing him again this season. When will it be next episode? I don't know. But I think whenever he does show up and actually is face to face or communicates with Carol, I think the ball is going to get rolling real quick.
Hmm.
So, 7 days, 8 hours, 42 minutes, 30 seconds. It is Carol leaving the hospital. This is the morning after the grenade incident. She gets a nice little cop car, nice little state trooper vehicle. Love it. She's flipping everybody off as she drives by. Just amazing. She has a bunch of bandages around her fingers, and I feel like we should know what that's from. Maybe it's blisters from digging or something like that, but I feel
Could
like
be that. It could be residual damage from the grenade. Like it's yeah. I didn't think too deep into it.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, she gets home and she's well, first of all, she sees a bunch of people fixing up her house, one of which was the mayor,
Hmm.
which is so funny, and of course Larry, whom we've come to love. But the big part of this scene is she is writing down what she knows about them. And 5 points, they are eager to please, would give an atom bomb, can't kill, not even fly, don't play favorites, like all jerks, same. Did I write that down right? Or was I reading that wrong?
I think you can take that as either like she's calling the other free thinkers as jerks and we're all like the same in their mind, meaning like when Kumba and her were talking about the idea of Zosha going to one side, they don't play favorites. Or
Okay.
she could be saying like everybody in the hive mind, they're all jerks and they're the same. It doesn't, same idea.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Fourth one being they're trying to change her, and
Mhm.
fifth, weirdly honest. And then she adds to that after the next conversation and can't lie. So
Mhm.
that's when she goes out, talks to Larry. I thought it was genius what she did. You know, she says she asked some questions which they might not like to give her the answers, but then she says, "It would make me happy if you told me." So she's really starting to learn how to manipulate them. I enjoyed this. I thought Larry was a peach. I would love
Mhm.
to see him back in another episode, but like you said, I doubt it because we're not going to see the DHL guy. But yeah, what were you thinking?
No, Larry was fantastic, and that's I almost hope he doesn't come back because they're like even like the little kids that were the neighbors earlier. You get the one scene, and there's no reason for them to be around unless Carol specifically is asking them to be around because they think it will please her. So I don't see how Larry could come back into the story without them just shoehorning him in there. But one thing I want to say about the whiteboard. First of all, I love that mechanic in a show. And Delco Nick, I know you're listening. Shout out to From, not the best show of all time on MGM Plus, but they did go through a similar freakish incident and they actually just write all the things that they know on the wall. I just love characters actually thinking through things here. Everything Carol said on the whiteboard was stuff we kind of already knew from the first two episodes even. But it is worth going through this entire experiment to prove that they can't lie and to prove that like a final statement she ends up amending it with. But we'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah, so this is more about the I mean, a part of the questioning that she goes through begs some questions that we can talk about how much she really knew from Helen's opinions on her books. Was she really just like was she so confident that Helen didn't like her books just from their past relationship that that was her lie detector test just to see what they would be willing to omit, or was this really a revelation? Because to me it was just she knew it in the back of her head and it was facing the music, but then it served the dual purpose of confirming that they can't lie but they will lie by omission. So like it almost served two purposes for me. uh but the fact that Helen is still going to be a theme, that's obvious, that's core to Carol's character. But it does make me think that she, now that she allowed them to recall some things from Helen, we learned something as an audience, which is that even if she commands you to never touch that again, like they really still have that information. So that was important to have in her in the scene. But yeah, like other than that, it was more about just her leaning in on the hunch that she had and dealing with the Helen stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and it was definitely her trying to pull the truth out. And I took it kind of like you were saying, like Carol knew that her work was like kind of mush, right?
Hmm.
And maybe she was talking, and episode one, when she talks to Helen about it, she's insinuating that Helen is thinking along the same lines but never heard it. So that's why when she finally did hear that Helen called it cotton candy, she did react a little bit. She pulled it out. She's like, what the whatever. And then she
Hmm.
talks about bitter chrysalis, and she's like, she didn't even read, it's 400 pages, she only got 120 or whatever. I think she was genuinely reacting and was upset about that. But I also do think it was like a lie detector test and trying to see if the infected would prioritize keeping Carol happy or if they would prioritize telling Carol the truth. And it turns out there's kind of like a middle ground in between the two, and they can't lie. They'll try
Hmm.
not to answer, but at the end of the day, if you keep pushing, they're going to give you the truth. Besides, when it comes to the frequency, we get that the next scene with Zosha at the hospital. But just I loved this scene with Larry. The acting was amazing between the two of them. Just their genuine like her genuine reaction to the truth and the statements, and then Larry's just smiling face, the way he's talking about how as when you ask that question, we experience your book through so many eyes, but we get these sensations. And I wonder if he really was telling the truth. Like he says, it makes us tingle. But I wonder if he's hand picking that because, like, I'm sure there's somebody who read it and hated it,
Yeah.
and he just didn't want to say like, oh, like a majority of people or some people hate it. So he's picking what information he wants to share.
There was some chatter in our community. I wasn't going to bring this up, but now that you took us this way, I think it's probably worth talking about. Was that there was observations that it felt like Larry, who is the face of the hive mind in this scene, didn't necessarily know the information right away and was almost like having to like access the database and like slowly drip out the information. Like started off very objective, like, yeah, we liked your book, it was very good. And then like, oh, then it started bringing out quotes and reading pages, and then it started getting into like the human emotional reactions of to these pages. It almost like it went to a checklist of getting more and more emotional and more towards an individual opinion within the hive mind. I'm just wondering if that actually gives us any insight, or if that was just that's just like how it works. Like it takes effort for them to read emotions of individuals rather than just like objective information, which seems like that makes sense. Like they can jump into a plane and drive and pilot anything in the world as long as they have like, all right, pull this lever, do this. But when it comes to like emotions, we already know they're weird with negative emotions from the free thinkers. Maybe like reactions and personal thoughts are harder for them to access in ways like this. But I don't know. It's hard to tell from just this one interaction.
No, I agree too. It seemed like he was Larry, that is, was hesitant to answer, and like you said, he started talking about the first novel, page 2 of the first
Mhm.
novel. It's like, really, that's the best part that touched you the most. And like you said, is it the strongest, most positive emotions that they react to and find first, or something like that? Like when he because if Larry is trying to go through the opinions of the entire world that is infected, there's no way that everybody thought it was great. There's definitely a
Yeah.
bunch of people. Like, there's no way that everyone in the world thought it was on the same level as Romeo and Juliet.
Mhm.
So why can he tell her that we love it?
The
It's interesting.
sad truth is that it's probably as simple as they're trying to avoid making her feel negative. Like if it's that simple, it's that simple. Like they could have answered right away, like part of these people think that your writing is just awful cotton candy, and like the writing and the grammar on this page is terrible. But instead they started off very high level. As she asked more specific questions, he got more specific, but he was leaning towards the positive stuff just to keep her negative emotions away. Like it could just be that simple.
Yeah.
But I like that there is a possibility for more nuance of like how the recollection of data works inside their heads.
hmm And
Yeah.
I also just love, and this isn't the first time they've done it, they've been doing it the whole show, but it's so good how Larry can speak for Helen's deepest, truest thoughts and just be like, oh, yeah, like she talked to Val. We knew it wouldn't hurt your career. And we knew it would make you happy. So just do it. It's so creepy to hear
Mhm.
the thoughts of somebody who is deceased. I love it. It's such a good creepiness to the show.
Yeah, for sure. That's probably all I have as takeaways there. I'm ready to get back to the hospital if you are.
Yeah, yeah. So Carol goes back to the hospital. She's Zosha. This is where she apologized, for the whole grenade incident in the first place. And she asked, "Do you guys know anything new about this frequency?" And Zosha's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we do." And then Carol says, "Do you know how to reverse it?" And by not answering, Zosha gives Carol the answer, which is yes, they do know something about it. Do they know fully about it? We don't know yet, but they at least have a hunch of how to reverse it. But we also learn that they can't answer questions like these.
Hmm.
So this is when Carol just leaves. She goes to the pharmacy by herself. This episode was so funny. It started with this. Just she's going through something. She looks like she has this high level plan in her head. She's studying about dosages. She pulls out, thiopental sodium, which I've never heard of before. So I didn't know what it did. And then somebody comes in, is like, "Oh, do you need help? Are you looking for something?" And she's just casually, "Yeah, do you guys have any heroin?" Just so money. I thought it was so funny, but it's also insanely genius because Carol is covering up her plan, which is to use this dialpentyl sodium, but she also knows that she can't lead on to everybody else that she is actually working on a plan. So she goes under the guise of doing heroin because they know that she did heroin before. It's
Mhm.
so smart and genius. And I didn't know what she was doing. And then by the end of the episode, when she is, sticking it in the IV, I'm like, Carol, you are so much more brilliant than I gave you credit for.
She could have taken it one step further and isolated Zosha, though, so that they couldn't all come. But yes, that was a really good plan. And she did clock the IV bag when she was originally talking to her, and that's when it all sparked. But yeah, this was great. Like that sodium, I'm just gonna call it the sodium compound, just because it's for ease of conversation purposes.
Same.
It's basically just blackout truth serum is what it ends up being, and that's what she goes back to her house to test that it is, before she uses it on Zosha. But yeah, this was just a really good plan, because how else are you going to, now that she knows that they can't lie, she needs to get them into a loopy enough state that they'll answer anything, so that regardless of what they answer, she'll know it's the truth. That's just, how else are you going to get real information here if you're the only free thinker around? So I liked it all. Like, then pretty sure this was the scene too where they went down some of her past, like talking about like the conversion camp when she was younger. I think that was in the hospital too.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm off with that, but either way, you learn more about Carol's past and like her relationship with her mom. I think it was that center there. That's all kind of in line with what we saw. It's just more about defining like her experience and stuff. But it's great. Like what ends up happening is she takes that and she goes back, right, with the heroin, which is, this was like the comedy I'm sure you were talking about. She's like, I need it. And they're like, oh, it's like 8 miles away. She's like, I want it. And then she's like, all right, it's on the way. That was funny. And then in the scene before, I didn't get to bring it up when you brought up the mayor. After she's like, you're the mayor. He goes, thanks for your vote, or something like
Yeah.
that. It was such a good scene. Yeah, they have some good comedy beats because it just lends itself to that. You would think we would be moving towards the path of horror because of what the show's about. It's like a zombie apocalypse almost,
Mhm.
but they just keep doing the comedy in it, and it works so well. Vince Gilligan's good at writing that in the tension filled moments.
Yeah, like a light-hearted apocalypse is kinda what
Hmm.
it feels like. It's so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to touch on it a little bit more, when Carol sets up the camera and after she injects herself, you don't really know what's going on, and then it cuts to her just being passed out on the couch, and then it shows her watching the video. I again, just such a smart decision to show it that way, because we're experiencing what she's experiencing. She's also seeing herself be goofy and getting like embarrassed from it. She needs to like
Hmm.
fast forward through some of the sobbing bits, or just the completely loopy bits, and she's even like nodding to herself when like the drugged up version is saying things. Carol's like putting her hand out, like,
Good
see,
point.
like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said that earlier. That's a good point. I agree with you. It's so funny. And then yeah, she also calls Zosha, fuckable, which again, like you were calling it, we were saying it last episode, there is something there. Is she
Hmm.
gonna act on it? I definitely feel like she will, by the end of the season, just because I'm sure she's gonna get lonely at one point and just say screw it. So I loved everything about how they filmed it, the scene progression, the acting, everything about this sequence was just so good.
Yeah, her just talking so much shit on Zosha, and she's like, "But why does she have to be so fuckable?" It's just is so good. And then right before that, it was just like random cut to random cut, and it was just her reading the book in an accent. I was
Mhm.
cracking up at that when she just got the whole thing. Like that was
Forgot
so
about that.
damn funny, man. Rhea Seehorn is great.
Oh, she's gold. She's so
Yeah.
gold. And one thing that I do wonder if it's going to come back into play is she dropped the memory chip of the camera into the toilet. And I don't know if that's gonna come back, but it just seems like an interesting way to dispose of it instead of, like, breaking it up. I get that she's trying to hide what she just did from the rest of the infected, but will it come back? And now that I'm even thinking about it, at the end of the episode, they know that she drugged Zosha, so what would be the point of
Yeah,
her
there's not
even
really a
putting it,
reveal to be
unless
had with that. Yeah.
yeah, unless they find something like her calling Zosha fuckable and then push that on Carol and try to like
Mhm.
emphasize that or like other things. But I don't know. But that was just one
I
thing I
see.
caught.
I already think that is the angle that started originally, like, because the whole
Yeah.
idea was that Zosha is a representation of Raban, who
Yes.
was supposed to originally be a girl, because as you're seeing with the conversion therapy thing, like I don't know if she's fully out to the world. She probably is at this point, especially if she was being sent to conversion camps. But like, she clearly made the decision that she didn't want to make a gay couple be the front of Waikaro. So she
Hmm.
changed that to go against her own personal identity. So it's even more like fighting internally with her. But like, Zosha is just the representation of like her fantasy love. So of course
Yeah.
they already know that she's attractive to her in that way. Plus they have Helen to know that she is gay. So it's like it all kind of works where I don't think there's any reveals to be had with that ship. It's just
Hmm.
like, but there could be. I mean, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, like, yes, they thought they would get to Carol and have the most success by this person that looks this way. And
Yeah.
I assume they were doing the same with the men in Paraguay. So when they showed that one, woman dropping off food, I was like, is that supposed to be his mother? Is that supposed to be his wife? Is that supposed to be somebody in his life that he would love?
Yeah,
Because, it has to be somebody because they're purposefully picking people to be the designated communicator.
for sure. Yeah.
All right. So I think the only other thing we have is the last scene of Carol going back, finally drugging up Zosha in the elevator. I didn't exactly know what was happening at first, but then once it starts coming together, I'm like, oh my god, this is genius. And she's talking about the elevator music. Oh, do you want some? 3 seconds, it starts playing. Just again, I'm
Hmm.
never gonna get tired of that. It's so money. And then the actual questioning, I guess you could say. Zosha's feeling it, and before we know what's happening, she's on the ground having a heart attack, and everybody's saying, "Please, Carol, Carol, please." What was your takeaway here?
Maybe I thought the weakest part of the episode was the execution of the plan, like the idea of the plan and how it came to Carol, and her preparation for the plan was just straight money. That was 80 to 90% of this episode. But like the last 10% felt short-sighted to me, because if you were going to do the whole drug her and then ask questions as quickly as possible, and then worst comes to worst, you handcuff her to her, like all of that fell apart almost instantly. Like she didn't even get really any legitimate answers out of her when she did start feeling loopy, because she goes into the heart attack and then everybody surrounds her. So I do wish she kind of thought maybe like have a car ready and freaking hitch it out of there or something. Like I was a little
Yeah.
disappointed in how that worked. I thought for a second that they were going to get aggressive with her, but I'm happy that they didn't, because that sticks with the rules that were given. They could have just forcefully stopped her, because they could tell that she was asking the forbidden questions, right? So now we kind of know, or it's reaffirmed the limits of what they'll do to stop her. Like they won't physically stop you unless there's like a real health reason that you give their blessing for, which is good. Like it makes you have a superpower of like absolute safety and defense when it boils down to it. But she needed more time, and now like that plan's in the trash. Like they're never going to let her drug them again. Like I feel like they're going to be aware of that tactic. So did like okay, so I guess the two questions that we can really end this conversation on is just, is there any deeper meaning to why they're all in unison saying please Carol? Like what are they begging her to actually do? Just release, or just to stop trying to fight it? Were they trying to beg with her to back off so that they could save Zosha, which feels a little weird because it doesn't seem like they cared that much about losing people. So like that's like part of it, and just like where do we go from here now? Like, is she going to be monitored, or is there no status quo change at all? Like, what do you think?
I could see, as long as Osha's alive, no status quo change at all. I could literally
Yeah.
see next episode starting with a phone call and it's Osha being like, "Hi, Carol." But this scene itself poses so many questions because, like you're saying, like, why are they saying please?
Hmm.
And it looked to me like everybody that was there had tears going down their cheeks. It was like dried tear tracks. So, are they all experiencing the same pain that Zosha's experiencing? Obviously, a heart attack, that is. They're saying, "Carol, please stop because you're making us feel pain." Are they saying it on Zosha's behalf? Carol, please stop. You're hurting Zosha. Was the heart attack induced purposefully by the infected to stop Zosha from giving the answer? or was Zosha having a heart attack just from the complicated position that she was in, and she can't say, and she doesn't want to say, she doesn't want to upset her, so eventually that led to a heart attack. There's so many things.
You just brought up so many good points. The one I want to touch on right away, though, which almost seems at odds with what we're seeing here, is that, like, I think we can be confident in our conversation about what getting drunk to you does, or
Hmm.
like what doing something to you, to a specific biological person, does to the hive mind, which we talked about it when they were when they were drinking last episode. It can't work like that. Like, it might mess up the output from that individual getting directions from the hive mind. Like, they could be impaired and talk all weird, but it doesn't mean they're all drunk. In the same way where I don't think they were all feeling a heart attack. Otherwise, I, I mean, like, maybe they were, but that feels inconsistent with the drunk thing. Like, if they are feeling the heart attack, they should also all be hammered when one person gets drunk, is
Hmm.
how I view it. So there's more conversation to be had with that, like when we have more scenes of these people doing things like that. But then I like what you were saying about on Zosha's behalf, meaning like her individuality within the hive mind was pleading to keep the body alive, almost like through the people that were around Carol and were hearing their pleas. I like that one the best. I think that could be an answer. Do they care about some of the individuals? Like, I don't know. There's just so many questions that spawn from these questions that I feel like we could talk forever. But
Hmm.
that's part of my, and then yeah. So I mean, you brought up a lot of good points, but I don't have any good answers for you, brother.
Yeah, I think it's all just speculation, but obviously they are all connected, but they each can have their some individuality when it comes to interacting with the unaffected. But then do the other ones experience that too? Like, I don't know. It's so crazy. Like, it
Well,
do.
that's actually a good point, because what if the whole idea that they need to eliminate the free thinkers is because of what you just said right there, where like being exposed to non-hive mind members is what causes the individuality to be ripped back out of them, and
Oh, okay.
that could pose problems for, the grand plan of spreading this message throughout the universe, if that's really where they want to go with it. So that could be a part of it. Like, Zosha is so close to Carol now after these last I guess only episode 2 and 3, and now episode 4, that it's starting to affect her in a more weighted way than all of the other individuals in the world. Like, there, where it actually does matter if this body dies because of what Carol's effect on Zosha's physical body is doing. Like, there's pieces there.
Yeah, and we could be like tiptoeing around it, or we could be, 10 miles off. But
Yeah.
it's so fun, and it just in our head it makes sense right now. So like I like that,
Hmm.
and exactly what's going to happen next. Like, are they going to actually set boundaries with Carol, or like they won't let her touch drugs now because they don't know what she's going to do? Is there going to be zero status quo change, like we just said? No idea, and that's the beauty of it,
Hmm.
and I love it.
So before we wrap up, I know we're getting to the end here. This is something we don't normally do, but I want to, because we don't have screeners and we're watching this live with everybody else, we can do this now that episode 4 is out there. Anybody that's listening to this podcast has clearly watched episode 4. But episode 5 already has the description out. So I'm going to actually read it, and maybe this will spawn any final conversations. It's called Got Milk. It's coming next week. It says Carol doubles down on her investigation. Loneliness be damned. Meanwhile, howls in the night reveal a new source of danger. And that line right there feels like that can open up a whole new avenue of plot, because there needs
Definitely.
to be more if there's going to be 4 seasons. Like, as much praise as we're giving the show, there's not too much to work with yet, especially because we're limited by right now only 12 people in the world aren't infected by this RNA virus. There needs to be something else. And I like the idea. Just, this is all fresh. I just read that description for the first time, that like they say, like, we don't do any work at night. That's what they said, and why they killed all the electricity and rerouted all the resources. They told Carol that last episode. What if something happens to them at night? Because she hasn't actually been around one of them overnight, unless I'm misremembering.
No, that's a great point. I mean, the most nighttime it would be the grenade incident, but still, that's not like the middle of the night. Um, yeah, no, I like that a lot. And is the howling the infected? Is it other animals? Because we know that there is something about the infected can't kill animals. They released everybody in the zoo. I keep bringing up the, is there an environmental aspect to it? So, but
Hmm.
what you said, that seems like a whole other chunk to the story of mysterious howling in the night, which could just add so much more and just cut off some of the crazy theory talk that we've been doing. And I think that we're trying to put together a puzzle and we only have, a corner piece right now. So any little bits of
Yeah.
information will be amazing.
Like we've said this a lot. I don't know if we've said it since the first podcast, but like just waiting on the other shoe to drop. Like clearly there needs to be some wicked villainous angle here at some level. Like it would be the most such a risky move to do this whole plot line and it literally be that they are good-hearted hive mind, right? And like
Yeah.
Carol is the villain because she's not succumbing to like the world peace or whatever it would be. There has to be another shoe that drops, and like that description is kind of giving me optimism that it could start to show its colors next episode.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot.
This was fantastic. I'm really excited for the next episode after reading that description. And I'm excited to hear Jimmy's thoughts too. We'll give him some time at the beginning of our podcast on episode 5 just to let him talk through this episode. But by that point, he will have already watched episode 5. So they're probably gonna be boring, lame thoughts that we already talked about anyway.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, I'm a genius and I knew this all along. Be like, all right, Jimmy.